this administration is not interested, and in fact is opposed to the very concept of institutions, and every other institution has already been challenged. The Supreme Court's all that's left.
I, you are expert on matters near and afar. It's been fascinating to talk to you. I just wonder, given how closely you watch global affairs, geoeconomics, geopolitics, whether or not you think that what we're going through at the moment is a consequence of Trump's idiosyncrasies reflected on a fragile and volatile global situation, or whether actually, irrespective of Trump, the world is now just very, very different and we're accelerating towards something even more dangerous, even more chaotic.
It's absolutely both. Remember, I mentioned that we had 7 elections in a row here where the United States, from a global point of view, picked the wrong guy. We had a chance 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago to come up with a system that was more sustainable for the post-Cold War world, and we never did it. We couldn't be bothered. So we always knew that the break in the strategic environment was going to happen because it doesn't work without the United States maintaining freedom of the seas for everybody. There is no trade without that. There's also no trade without consumers. And the world has been demographically aging for 80 years, and we're now in a situation, it's not that we've run out of children. A lot of countries did that back in the 80s and 90s. We're now running out of working-aged adults in the advanced world. And the advanced developing world is aging much faster than the developed world ever has, with China being at the lead of that, to the point that they're looking at national dissolution. And both of these trends were always going to kind of hit us head on in 2025 to 2035, the window we're in right now. What Trump is doing is compressing the time frame towards the front part of that window. So we were always going to get here. We were always going to get here about now, but it didn't mean that we had to get there this fast. If you give somebody 10 to 20 years to adapt, they can. If you give them 3, not so much.
Well, I'm about to live out my newsreader dreams because whilst we've been talking, Peter, there's some breaking news, which won't be breaking news by the time our viewers actually get to see our video. But for you and I, this is a live reaction to the fact that the Supreme Court has just struck down Trump's global tariffs. And and the justices have found that Trump has overstepped his authority when he invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose the tariffs. What's your reaction?
What was
The producer is now writing the vote was 6-3.
6-3? Okay. I know which 6, I know which 3. All right. The Trump administration has gone out of its way to ignore the courts repeatedly. This will be the first time it has attempted that with the Supreme Court, however, which means that this is a congressional prerogative. And if those old school Republicans are going to get their shit together, this is the issue that they will do it for. I find that unlikely. I find it more likely that Trump will simply come up with new reasons and new justifications for doing actually more tariffs. He's the type of guy to double down unless he's been completely boxed in. This isn't boxed in. So this court system, or the challenge that led to this, will now have to happen all over again with a different law and a different justification, unless and until Congress steps in with that 2/3 majority.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is speculation by those reacting to the news or whether this is part of the court judgment in its own right. But apparently the government might be forced to refund billions made in tariff revenue. But the problem with that, Peter, as an ex-politician, is that if the court had said the president overstepped, Congress owns it as a policy area, scrap the tariffs and everybody get back to Congress owning it, that would be a politically tenable position for Congress to adapt. But Congress is not going to support the American people handing over billions of dollars back to every other country on earth. That is politically mad.
You're crossing your wires there a little bit. You absorbed a little Trump propaganda. This money doesn't go to foreign countries. It goes to the companies in the United States that did the imports.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the refunds would have to go to the businesses that have had to pay the tariffs to import from overseas.
That's how the U.S. customs systems works, yes.
Gotcha. Well, that wouldn't be quite so politically toxic. Although I still suspect that, it's you could see how the White House spins that.
Oh, of course. And now we are only 7 months away from the midterms, and any Republican congressperson who crosses the administration on this will absolutely face a presidentially fired primary proponent or a primary opponent who would be somebody that the president felt he could control completely. So the timing of this, in order to make politics in the United States even a little bit more spicy, is perfect.
Well, Peter, you were an expert respondent to breaking news. I don't think CNN are going to be knocking on my door as a sort of breaking news anchor anytime soon. But anyway, interesting to see that come up as we've been speaking to get your expert response. Given what you were saying, the absolute certainty around the president's powers to set foreign policy, wage war, interesting to see that on this, the court might be in the process trying to curb its powers. Although I note with some concern that you think the White House might actually take on the Supreme Court's authority and just say, "No, we're ignoring you.
I mean,
We'll do a whole new paradigm."
let's be honest here. This administration is not interested, and in fact, is opposed to the very concept of institutions. And every other institution has already been challenged. The Supreme Court's all that's left.
Fascinating, depressing. But there we go. Look, Peter, please come on the show again. I found it fascinating to talk to you, and the dexterity with which you dance around the world and join up the dots was a joy for me to hear, and I'm absolutely certain everybody watching would have thought the same. So thank you for coming on. You've been watching Superpowers with me, James Heapy. For more episodes of the Trump Report and Frontline, and of course, for more Superpowers, please subscribe to the channel. But otherwise, we will see you next week. Thank you very much, and goodbye.